Hello everyone, welcome to tonight's live stream. A bit free and easy tonight. We weren't going to do one, but we've got a few things to share, and I'm sure that you guys in chat have got some questions for us. We really would appreciate them. It's a bit free and easy. There's not loads planned, but I think let's just enjoy it. Let's just have a nice relaxing time after all the mince pies, tinsel and turkey. How are you doing, Les?
Yeah, I'm fine, Paul, and like you say, just enjoying that time after Christmas where you've had a belly full of everything, as you say, turkey, mince pies, and more importantly, drink.
Well, you
Yeah,
can
we like
never
a
have
good
enough mince
drink.
pies and drink, but there you
We
go.
like a good drink after Christmas. So yeah, so as Paul said, free and easy for us, and let's. I'll let Paul kick off with what we've got on the itinerary tonight. Then.
Well, at some point during live stream, we've got a 15 to 20 minute interview that's pre-recorded that we're going to play. I'll say it right up front. We're hoping the sound's going to work okay. It should do, but if it doesn't, we'll just come back to the live stream and Les will get that sorted within a few hours and it'll be up and running for you. I think that's right, Les, isn't it?
Yeah, we're just having local issues here, but I'm sure it'll go out on the
Yeah,
stream,
I'm
Paul.
sure.
Yeah.
One thing, I don't know who's in Bridlington that's listening to this live in chat or anybody that listens to it afterwards. I'm looking for information about a UFO sighting at Hilderthorpe School. And closest I can get at the moment is 1973, 74, 75. I received this information, well, today, to be honest with you. The guy who was actually a pupil at the school remembers seeing the object, remembers all children in classroom looking at it, teacher going outside to look at it. They pulled the blinds of the classroom. It's a long sighting. It's not like a 20-second sighting of a silver object. Quite close, Hilderthorpe School, Bridlington. So anybody that, I don't know, might remember something about that, please get in touch. We're going to go through a few sightings tonight, or a few reports that we've had over years, what this past year and year before, what Don Lodgers kindly put onto our Truth Proof website. Don's a bit of a stickler for reports, and when we get one in, he'll contact me and say, what do you think? Shall we put it on? Is it worthy? And most of the time I'll go with Don's judgment, because he can spot something that's half decent. So I don't know if you want to run with any of them, Les.
Well, I think an idea I've got here is we do have a report from Finber. I know it's entitled Lights in the Sky, but I think it's actually talking about something else, Paul.
It is, yeah.
So if we can...
I've just picked a few of these out. I think reason this one's relevant is it's this month. It's the 1st of this month. And we were contacted, myself and Don, email come through to the website, of a small bear-like creature at Finber, of all things, small bear. And they didn't say it were a bear, they just said that's what it kind of resembled in sort of physical stature, not a dog and not a cat. And it was near the roundabout at Finber, and I do realise I'm talking about a location here that a lot of people won't be familiar with. But it's not the first time we've had reports from this location. It's near Fridythorpe, it's near a village called Wetwang, and it's just about on the wolds where all these lights and unusual phenomena have been reported over years. Excuse me. At the bottom of the roundabout, there's a little picnic area and a block of toilets. I don't know if it's still there, brick-built toilets. And I think back in 2007, an elderly couple, well, it's the farmer guy from up at Staxton. They stopped to use the toilet, and his wife saw a big black cat. So, and quite adamant about what they saw. And these kind of people aren't going to misidentify, Tigger, somebody's house cat that's about the size of a Jack Russell. Said it's a big black cat up there. So there's a diversity of reports. It's not far from Towthorpe, and we've got a report in Towthorpe a few years ago with the metal detector, who were metal detecting, let's just say it, people, illegally. So I'm not going to say his name. And he's in a place where running alongside of a wood, and he's with a big dog in the night it's a Caucasian Shepherd, big fierce dog. And people might have heard me talk about this story before. there's something pacing them as they're going into the wood. They're walking along the side of the wood. It had done it the night before as well, but he'd found some hammered silver coins, so I'm told. Don't ask me what they are. Oh, hammered silver coins, but, you know, I don't know what era, what period they're from. His dog, which he claimed was frightened of nothing, he sort of made it go into the wood. It came out cut and marked up and sort of crying and yelping. So whatever it was, we don't think it was a badger. So another interesting one. But yeah, all around this area, strange reports. So that's jumping. We sort of moved on a little bit from Finborough. Once again, we've got the Beesendale Valley that's close to Finborough. We talk about the phantom hounds and the ghost lights of the Beesendale Valley. And I'll not go into too much detail about that because we only talked about that a few I don't know, chats ago. So, is there anything else, Les?
I'm just flicking through. If anybody's got any questions,
there's a question there. I can see it. I mean, yeah, we can do some of these as they come up. But if Les wants to go for some of these questions,
excuse me, folks. I am chewing on a toffee. So if you,
well, I'll just make a note because Sky's just put it on. It's the hill. It's a question about. I know what she's on about. Up at Bempton.
Okay, then. So. Well, I'll start off talking about the last one that was presented on the website by a contributor called Steve, and he was driving eastbound along the A166, just approaching Wetwang.
Yeah.
And
same area.
This
again.
was 6th of December 2022, so yeah, a few weeks back, and he noticed high up in eastern sky in front of very bright white lights traversing around each other, so kind of circulating round then. Two lights were flashing randomly and then began to move off away from each other, one heading south and the other heading north, before I lost sight of them due to the trees, buildings and the bright road lighting. So, you know, the lighting kind of didn't see it as clear as probably what you would have if you'd been out in the countryside, would you?
But you're pretty. There will be a bit of
lighting. Yeah, those lights appeared to be. Yeah, those lights appeared to be on the way out over the North Sea, probably somewhere between Skipsea and Fraserthorpe.
Yeah, well, you know, I've tried my hardest. It doesn't surprise me, and it's kind of thing that does get reported quite a lot. Up at Staxton, I've just mentioned Staxton. There were some farmers up there that told me, this is going back a few years ago, and I'm just going with what this guy said, that they were looking at two lights moving around each other. And a similar thing. I mean, we know that Staxton's not, where did we say, close to Wetwang, but we're not that far away. And even then, in Wetwang, he's not, what a name, eh? What a name for a village. He's not going to have totally unpolluted skies. It's going to be quite remote up at Wetwang, you know, and apart from village has got a few lights running through it. Loads of reports from that area, bearing in mind, back in 2004 to 2009, me and Steve Ashbridge spent years up there, up around Cottam and Sledmere and Huggett. You know, we've got some brilliant reports from that area. You know, Les,
yeah.
We interviewed a lady called Elaine for bringing down the light who were travelling home to Huggett. I can't remember the year, but it was winter time and quite icy. And she saw what she thought were lights of I don't know, somebody poaching or lights of somebody's torches on the road, and they're pretty narrow, remote roads. And as she rounds a corner, she runs into a herd of deer, roe deer. There's no naturally farmed roe deer up there. I don't know anybody that farms a naturally any road, but they're not up there. I know they've got deer at Sledmere, but these weren't roads. She says they look stunned, and above them, there's orange spheres of light. Once again, we've got that's the first time I've had a report of a witness saying that they actually saw the lights above the deer, and we're not talking miles in sky, we're talking just above the deer. She took evasive action and ended up crashing a car in a field. And you know, and anybody who's watched Bringing Down the Light will have heard her story. She had to climb out of the back window. Took her ages to get home. She doesn't understand why, because she were quite close to home, and it literally took her ages to get home. So there's an element there. We've not dug deep into that. I think if she'd have had some memories, I mean, she would have shared them with us. But once again, it's a prime area.
Yeah, and just to conclude the
Wetwang, the land of not.
yeah, yeah. Just to conclude what Steve had put in his report, he did his due diligence, because the first thing he did, he went onto a flight radar tracking app to see if there was any aircraft in that area exactly at the time when he saw these sightings. So he was on the ball there.
Yeah.
But obviously it came up blank.
Yeah, it's kind of thing that I don't have flight radar on my phone, but Bob Brown does, and Steve does. Basically, people, because my phone's rubbish. If I put too many things on it, I'll overload it with a call. So basically, if we see anything out at sea, unusual, then Bob's onto flight radar, Steve's onto flight radar straight away. And many people are. I just need to join the world, don't I, and get a better phone.
Yeah. This report took my fancy here, Paul, and report 169. And don't forget, people who can get access to the computer, they can follow these reports, because this one I will be paraphrasing. It's quite a long one.
Okay.
And so it's report 169 if anybody wants to read that in full.
And these are on Truth Proof website.
And these are on the Truth Proof website, which is on the screen. Website address is on the screen now. So, and this one's good because they're talking about a disappearing hooded figure and children. So, hi Paul, an experience I had some time ago. Sadly, I have no accurate date, but the best I can do is summer of 2021, so pretty recent. And we're frequent day trippers to Bridlington from Bradford, and had a pleasant day. We left the Park and Ride at South Shore, so anybody familiar with that area knows where we're talking about there. And they left about 7 p.m. to drive back to Bradford. My route is always the same: Bridlington, Beverley, South Cave, A63, M62, westbound. Weather sunny, dry, clear, warm evening. So driving on the 165, 50 miles per hour, one car about 20 yards ahead. Immediately after Fraserfoot turn off, I saw 3 people on the right hand side of the road. My impression was that of a teenage girl dressed in a long hooded black coat, and she had 2 smaller children with her. The teenage girl gripped the hood as if running into a strong wind. Gripped her hood as if she was running into a strong wind, and there was no wind, and ran head down across the road and disappeared.
Yeah.
I looked to my left, expecting to see a gap in the hedge allowing her access to the field. No girl, and the hedge is continuous and solid. Then I looked in my mirrors to check what the younger kids were doing, suspecting they would follow the teenage girl, and I couldn't see them any younger kids at all from that point.
It's a great account. I spoke to this guy, and I did talk about it a few weeks ago, and when he said young children, he's only surmising, because he just glanced at them, because this tall thin figure looked like a long black coat with a hood. But what's interesting, whoever this girl or whatever it was ran between his car and the car in front, and he's travelling at 40 to 50 miles an hour, and disappeared, like you've just said, Les. And then when he looked, what he assumed were the children had gone. But what's also interesting, and I did touch on it the other week, it's literally, and it is very close, I don't mean miles away, we're talking about yards away from where the UFO was seen at Fraserthorpe in 2009, when the police officer was approaching a car in the night, and the car's headlights dimmed and stopped, and he stopped to assist, and the triangular shaped object lifted from the other side of that hedgerow and went out to sea. I've written about that in Truth Proof too. I've talked about it when we talk about what I called the Wilsthorpe incident. Excuse me. So once again, locations are repeating themselves. It's fascinating. And go on, Les.
Yeah. So I'm just picking up on. It said the weather was sunny, dry, clear, and a warm evening, and left at 7 o'clock in the summer. So it's still pretty much daylight. Yeah. It's full daylight still, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah.
And you're seeing these figures, and but he also mentions that the car in front didn't put any brake lights on, because he just happened to perceive it that the car in front was nearer than what he was at the time.
He don't think anybody else noticed it. I'm not even sure. Excuse me. I'm not even sure if this guy's wife saw it. I don't know if it says in report. I mean, so you've got people. You have to understand. I mean, like I said, I'd got this Hilderthorpe school report from, we think it's 1973, but he said it could have been 4 or 5, and you're trying to gather as much information as you can, and you've got these things spinning around your head every day. It's
so you said you've spoke to this contributor,
yes,
Peter.
I speak to most of them, you know, and I find out if I can use their names basically, because I don't mind changing the name.
The spot then where he saw this, we'll call it apparition, or they saw the apparition. Is there any form of building?
There's nothing there
on that spot.
He's given us the description. It was just after the Fraysthorpe turn off. So as you're driving up that road, the next village is Barmston. Fraysthorpe, I don't know how many houses are in Fraysthorpe. I'd be guessing, but I think there'll be no more than 15. So you can see how small it is. So the first turning on the left coming out of Bridlington, let's assume you've travelled another 50 or 60 yards. There's nothing. You've got fields to the right. You've got a big field with horses in it to the left, and the what we'll call the village, the houses of Fraysthorpe, which would be probably from the road 80 yards away. So yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean that would be great to, you know, if there was any lead to follow up on that, you know.
Well, we'd also which leads me to just another one's coming to my head, which is on the website, and it's a guy called David. I'm not sure if his surname's not Marshall. He's happy enough to give us the report and his name, and he was walking. He does loads of walking, David. He might be in chat even. And he's at the other side of those houses, and there's an hedgerow, and he claims that a light came down from the sky, and it had a hole in it, looked like a donut, silver light, went along the hedges, and then shot off. Just fascinating. That one's on website as well. You know, it's brilliant. And when we're talking about lights coming down from the sky and shooting off, there's an incredible diver report that I've just been, I wouldn't say messing about with, but writing up this week, which is a really good one. I've spoke about it, but not in any great detail. But we'll concentrate on these, Les.
Yeah, I picked up another one, and this one's outside of the area, Paul. It's way down in Exeter, Devon, over St Thomas. And it's a report, and I probably said this to you earlier, it's about a triangle-shaped craft, which you seem to hear a lot about a few years ago, but you don't seem to hear of the triangle-shaped craft in recent reports, I don't think, anyway. So he was basically, he woke up at stupid o'clock at 2:20 a.m., got out of bed, walked to the back door, opened the blinds to look at the stars. Whilst looking around, I saw what looked like the triangle-shaped craft with a light on each corner. They did shine, just a gentle glow, no sound whatsoever, and just gently gliding away. And I got about 2 to 3 seconds view of that one. I don't have any pics. There's a phone. I don't usually have the phone near me at that time in the morning.
Yeah, and that's telling, isn't it? How many people do we hear about it? And I don't mean it's really common, but it's quite common, that feel compelled to get up and look out at window, feel compelled to go to the back door, and they don't really know why. And then when they get there, there's something there. We're just jumping straight back to Wilsthorpe and Fraysthorpe. The old lady who saw the UFOs over the sea, people will have heard me say this, she went to turn the light off in her porch. It was lit up because of the objects, but she didn't know that. She could just see the light as before they went to bed. And she turned around because outside light weren't on, stepped back into a living room, and something said to her in her head, go back and have another look. How does that work? Do you know, it's crazy.
I know, and well, it is, because you're kind of sort of like insinuating there's some kind of manned transportation of thoughts, isn't there? You know what I mean?
But I don't think there's any other way that we can look at it, Les. Even if science says it's not possible, and academics and people with a lot more learning than me say it's not possible, it's clearly happening. Else we wouldn't have this massive amount of people who are saying similar things. And it covers the full spectrum of unexplained phenomena. If we jump into forests in North Yorkshire, we know one of those witnesses knew that creature were there an hour before they saw it. And that were totally out of character for him. And when he were leaving, which we haven't put in Wolflands out of respect for this guy who don't want to go on film, and we've not put it, and I'm going to talk about it now, so it's going to upset him. We've just not put it because we don't want to link too much to him. But when he were leaving, he said it's still there, still watching us. And they walked for a good distance, and then he said, "We're all right now. It's gone." They'd just suffered this thing all night. It covers full spectrum of unexplained phenomena. This knowing, this knowing that it's an unawares type of knowing, because we can't perceive it at any time until the phenomena puts the influence on us.
I picked up on this other one as well, which this sort of like corresponds to what you're picking up at Bempton, really, Paul, with the orange lights. And this one was Whitby Spa Pavilion, and this was reported. Oh, the sighting was the 17th of August this year, and I was leaving Whitby Spa Pavilion, and this is from Margaret. She was leaving Whitby Spa Pavilion with 5 other people around 10:15 in the evening. We're chatting in 2 groups of 3, when one of the others I was talking to said she'd seen an orange light over the sea, but as we turned around it disappeared. She said there was a plane visible in the sky above it, which is very interesting, which was quite bigger than the orange ball of light, I reckon she means there. Then she saw it again and it went out, and then the light went out as we turned. Then as I was walking to my friend's car with her, I saw the orange orb above the sea. I pointed out to my friend, but it went before she could see it. So that's it. It comes back to what you've been talking about in your books and on the streams, is that these things appear, and then suddenly as they appear, they seem to disappear, don't they?
Well, as you know, I mean, you spend a fortune on cameras. I do. Chris Turner does. And I've got them ever ready trying to capture these things. And I've been successful, but only marginally. The best stuff you never get on film. And it sounds a bit of a cop-out, really, because you're going to get, oh, yeah, well, then you'd just say that. And this lady's account, you could argue that, or some would argue, that probably a flare that the plane dropped. Do you know what I mean? But I can't answer that. All I know is that what we're looking out at into the North Sea, and what we're looking at there just appear randomly, silently, no aircraft in sight, and then just punch into multiples and disappear. So don't forget questions in capitals, please, people. If you just fire some at us, we're happy to try and answer them.
Yeah, and just got to say at this point, probably forgot to bring it up at the beginning of the show. We've got to welcome everybody who's in tonight's chat, and you've took time out over the holidays to come and join us on this extra show. We didn't plan it, but we thought we'd put it out there because people want to hear quite a lot, the content, and they want to hear it from the investigator who's had it reported to, don't they, Paul? Really?
Well, in some instances, I mean, it's not. Sometimes it's difficult because I can't always have dates just ready to snap off the top of my head, and I'm always conscious that there's people out there saying, "Oh, you said it was September and it was October." It's not easy,
So, Scar's doing the moderator tonight, and thanks for coming on at short notice, Sky, and that's brilliant. So, have you noticed any questions? Can you see any questions in the chat, Paul?
And somebody put a question up earlier, and I've just made one note and put a box around it that said hill, because I knew that they were referring to this location up on Bempton Cliffs, where it weren't apparent right away, but over the years it's become apparent that within this zone of strangeness, there's a little concentrated pocket where there seems to be more activity. So, but in answer to your question, no, we've not seen anything. We've not seen or experienced anything up there for quite a while. And I've spoke to people in other parts of the world who are investigating areas, we'll call them of high strangeness. And it seems to be the same there as well. This is why I'm always stressing to these people and other people, need to get our heads together, because when things start to bounce and become active, it'd be good to know if they're becoming active in other parts of the world. But this hill, we've seen strange squares of light on the hill in the darkness. Bob Brown, who were in chat earlier, I don't know if he still is, took an unusual picture, just a one-off picture, as he's photographing a kestrel. This blob of a thing appeared on hill, and he took the picture. Bob's got the photograph. It's the same place where the rock angler claims the spaceship landed in 1978. And there's just a myriad of things. And there's a dog walker. I don't think I've ever... I may have told this story ages since, but there's a dog walker. I think they call him David Ellis from Bempton. 2 Labrador dogs. Can't remember the year. And he's walking there in summer. And he comes down into the RSPB car park, and there's an exit that leads onto the cliffs. But back in the day, the big double gate at the bottom, which there's no entry, you could go through that and down onto the cliffs, and that's what he did. And he's walking down. He said he's got his 2 Labradors are just milling about. There's an owl coasting, just sliding. He's watching that. And then he looks onto the cliff tops just below this, what we'll call the hill, which is ironic because when you look at it from cliffs, it looks like a hill. When you actually get onto it, it is from the front, but then it just goes back at the same pitch and everything. It doesn't go down. But anyway, his eyes are drawn to this mushroom-shaped cloud of blue light, and it's daylight on the cliff tops to the right of him. He said it's hanging over the sea. He described it as being about the size of a bus. This single-decker bus, double-decker bus, the size of a bus. He said, so it's covering the path as well, that you'd have had to walk through it if you were walking to Flamborough or walking from Flamborough to Bempton. And it goes up into the field. So he's looking at this thing and he's kind of mesmerised, he said, because he can see inside it that there's lots of lights punching and sparking. And he hadn't a clue what it is. He didn't walk up to it. He sort of walked as close as he felt comfortable. His dogs seemed unaware. So I do know that in some instances, people talk about animals being totally aware of the strangeness that is enveloping people. And in the end, he turned around and went. There's another story of a guy, Peter, spoke to him on Christmas Day, funnily enough, first time in ages. And if he's listening to this, I know me and him are going to get up to speaking shortly. But Peter is the guy that I've said used to walk Cliff Lane day or night, depending on what shift he were on, for years and years and years. So when you write about sightings on Cliff Lane, and I think I've got 2 from Peter, we're talking about over a 20-year period, people. So it's not that prolific. But he's walking and he's looking over to the old RAF base on the left-hand side as he's going down the lane. And what does he see? A blue, mushroomy-shaped light in the field. This is about 6 a.m. He doesn't see lights punching about inside it. He just sees the light on the ground. He's too far away. I think you're looking at 500 yards away. But it made him feel uncomfortable, and he walked back home. Before, he would have walked down onto the cliffs, walked all the way to Bempton, and come off down at Horicow's Lane. He'd have done a full circuit, but that unnerved him. So, once again, location is key. Right, Les, fire away.
Yeah, and...
excuse my throat as well, people. I think you must know that I've got a bit of a dry throat here, but yeah, all good. Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, I'll just let Sky know I'm not seeing anything on my little tablet here.
We've got some stuff that needs removing.
I see some questions from Sky on my main computer, so until this reboots up here, I'll read some of them off what I can see on this other screen, Paul.
Okay.
So let's have a look then. Oh my gosh. Let me have a look here. Lee Roscoe, I'll just start with Lee's question. Why has Chris, I think he's referring to Chris Turner, why has Chris upgraded his camera equipment, and what are his plans in 2023?
Well, what's Chris?
I'm really up for Winter Hill Investigation Team and Chris doing a film together. Thanks again.
Well, Lee, I mean, obviously you could just ring him and ask him, but I can tell you why. I think I know why. I don't know if they're listening to this. And I think Les is probably going to upgrade to a similar thing. Les is using a 4K Blackmagic camera, which is an absolutely brilliant camera. I have a Sony NX80. I don't want to bore people with names and numbers, but I've just bought a Blackmagic 6K Pro, which ain't cheap, and all accessories with it. And Chris Turner's just bought the exact same one. We do plan on reviving a documentary that we started a few years ago, probably 3 years ago, called Supraliminal, and we'll be working on that. Obviously, me and Les are, well, we're working on Wolflands, but Wolflands is done. I'm proud to say we're through the worst of it now, Les, aren't we?
Yes, and somebody in the chat has asked when that will be completed.
Yeah.
We can't actually put a date on that, but we know it's imminent. We know it's imminent.
As far as me and Les are concerned, apart from a few titling bits, we've done. There's no more filming to do. It's gone to have music added, and I'm really pleased with it. Really pleased. But back to Lee Roscoe. I asked Chris, but I think that's the reason, Lee. You know, I think it's just future projects, and I suppose if you're going to film something and film it right, then you've got to have the right equipment. It's just cost me an arm and a leg. I know Les can't show you all camera equipment at side of him, right and left, but he's probably spent 10,000-20,000 over a number of years, hasn't you, Les?
Yeah, that's all my funeral money gone. That's it. It'll just be a wicker basket, I think.
No worries. So I hope that's answered something, Lee.
Okay, so I'll just pick up on some more questions. So that was Lee's question. Sorry if I've getting these out of order, folks, but it is a little bit tricky on this to try and scroll through some of these.
Bobby Dazzler, thank you for the $8.99 in the super chat, but it said, why am I getting odd amounts? I don't know that. I can't answer that.
No, we have no...
But if there's anything untoward, don't worry. We'd definitely sort things out for you. Not a problem.
Yeah, okay. And Alison Butler is saying, welcome to Truth Proof, and don't forget to press the like button and subscribe. Yeah, thank you for reminding people for that, Alison. Right then, 5 past midnight, Paranormal South. Chris Turner, when are you planning your last transmission podcast? So we can't answer that one.
No, I'm going to say 5 past midnight, and Lee Roscoe, you've got to look. It's Les and Paul. You're asking Chris a question, and then he's not here.
No, I said there's only Chris who could probably answer that questions. So sorry about that one. Right then, Andy Ross, Ghost Whisperer. Could these dogmen be guardians of the areas that they inhabit, Paul?
What a fascinating answer. What a good question, should I say, and a fascinating thing to think about, because it's been said that we're not breaking new ground saying this, but I think so. I think there's something to it. Someone who wrote a few paragraphs for me in Truth Proof 3 is one of the most eminent people when it comes to ancient literature in this country, if not the world. And she looked at the stone images of the stone that I sent her from Bridlington Priory. There's a great big piece of marble, about 6 foot 5 inch deep and about 3 foot wide, and it portrays what they say is Aesop's fable. She doesn't think that. She's interpreted it, and I've never written about her interpretation, but she's saying that she thinks it's a guardian, a black dog type omen. And we've got these black dogs all over the east and North Yorkshire coast. And I've been looking at Hackness Church, which is very close to the Forge Valley and very close to where a lot of these people have been having the sightings of let's call them dogmen, werewolves. And it's interesting that Hackness Church has 3 carvings of gargoyle type creatures that are unique to that area, and there's all sorts of things. There's an 8th century stone cross in the church with and a lot of it's fragmented. They think at one time it's been a gatepost, but it's an 8th century cross that's carved. But they can see what they're interpreting to be Griffin's feet carved in the bottom, but they look canine. I'm not saying that's the reason, but let's just stay with Hackness for a moment, because it's a fascinating place. And people should sort of research Hackness, I think, because it has 2 saints. Saint and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, I think it's Berg and St. Hilda. And when we were looking into it, it's weird where the rabbit hole leads you. St. Hilda founded Hackness Church. She was the, is it called the abbess, which would mean Mother Superior of Whitby Abbey. And I can't think of the name before it were called Whitby Abbey, as Strenorthshall or something like that. It got its name changed when the Vikings raided it and they named it Whitby, so basically. But what am I saying here? Berger, and I'm probably going to saying this wrong, or Buger, she had a vision in 640 AD. And in her vision, she saw the roof of the dormitory, the room where her and the nuns were sleeping, and she saw the sky open up and a brilliant white light fill the dormitory where all the other nuns were. And then she saw St. Hilda ascending to heaven with angels. When the vision was over, she immediately woke all the nuns up and told her that St. Hilda was dead. This is 640 AD. 680 AD, I think. So we're talking over 1,300 years ago. So they all prayed that night, praying for St. Hilda to be transported to heaven in, I suppose, most venerable way. All this is documented by the Venerable Bede. Now, what's interesting then is it is said the next day, monks came from Whitby and announced the death of St. Hilda, which is fabulous. But I thought, well, if you're deeply religious, please don't think I'm downplaying things, but it almost sounds like an abduction. It's a fabulous story, and it's a miracle. It's like something from the Bible, but very rarely told. And in the same area, we've got another saint called Cadamon, and he was said to be a simple man, and all the other monks used to mock him because all he did was tend to cows and sheep. But then he arrived, he spoke to the monks one morning, can't remember the dates, people, and he says an angel came to speak to him. And the angel asked him to write a verse. And I had this stuff wrote down. One sec, people. Bergu, they call the nun, but he wanted him to write a verse. And now this verse is the oldest recorded English poem within living memory of the Christianization of Anglo-Saxon England. And where am I going with this? I find it fascinating that it's chronicled, it's documented that this guy had a visit from an angel. How many times do we hear where people having supposed alien visitation, UFO-related incidents, and suddenly they become gifted? They want to write, they want to paint. There's parallels there, you know. I'm sorry for going off on a tangent, people. Let's do some more questions, Lezo.
Yeah, well, I've got the chat back on my tablet, and
Okay.
yeah, that was it. That was interesting.
There's
Paul,
loads more. I mean, with a bit of thought, I could probably talk about that for an hour or more. You know, but
yeah,
it's just
and you know, you're going back, you know, these amount of years. What was it? What did you say?
680 AD, over 1,300 years.
680 AD, yeah.
1,334.
And so, do you think then, over that period up until this present time or recent times, that people get these two things confused? Then
I think so.
Probably alien abduction and you know, rising up.
Well, let's face it. I mean, probably nothing's changed, but they wouldn't have had the vocabulary. They didn't have TV programs. They didn't have sci-fi movies, and you know, and let's be right. They might be on the right path. The people of religion might be on the right path. We might be steering down the wrong path. You know, it's. I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong here. I can just see the parallels. St. Hilda was said to use a wand made of jet. Now, if anybody doesn't know what jet is, it's fossilized wood. It can be found at Whitby. There's Whitby jets, but there are jet mines in other places all around the world. And in shamanism, people use jet to cleanse and purify and banish demons. And which is interesting because St. Hilda is attributed to miracles, and she's said to have banished an infestation of snakes from around Whitby, and I can't think what the words were, and using this jet, and fascinating. There's so many things that you can look into that aren't necessarily UFO alien related. And I don't mean you just grab something and cherry pick it and think, well, that might fit with that. There's just parallels.
Annie French Boyson is asking, are we having more sightings recently, or is Annie suggesting she's just more aware of them?
Bit of both, I think, Annie. You know, I mean, it's a good question, because I think people are being more bold. They're more bold and willing to talk about these things. Yeah, sure. Simply because of live streams like this, not necessarily mine, but they're all over the world. It's everywhere. It's hitting you in face. And if there's one thing good about the internet, it's just shown what a massive interest there is in this subject. And I'm not talking UFOs. I'm just talking about the unexplained in general.
Aldo Rain is asking, did anyone see the latest missing tourist report from Madeira? A fell runner from Cumbria vanished without a trace, having just left his wife to finish the run. Third lone tourist in a year.
No,
interesting.
Didn't see it. No,
I haven't seen it either. So I've got no more info to add on that, or any opinion on that one. Right then, Alison Buttle is. Hi Paul, Les from Alison Buttle.
Don't fall off my chair.
Do you have any reports of the cow screaming? What Paula talked about?
Yeah, I'm glad you said Paula, because you mean Paula Elizabeth Green?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, yeah.
They were camping at a farm just outside of Hunmanby early this year, and Paul had been telling me off if I've got this wrong. I think they witnessed some strange lights, and then they heard a cow bellowing out in pain. I mean, I suggested, I'm not saying that she's wrong, but I suggested it just simply could be that it's a cow that needed milking, because they do, you know what I mean? But this were in the night, so I don't know. I've not heard any more. And back of my mind, something tells me that I've got a UFO report from that area as well, but I can't recall it at this moment.
Chris James is asking, hi Paul, did you show Les the video I sent you?
No, I didn't.
Chris James.
I didn't. No, sorry, Chris. And I mean, it'd be something that we need to add to the website.
Okay, and Paranormal UK Radio Network is asking, where do you think will be the most active area in 2023 in the UK and the rest of the world?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, how long's a piece of string? It's impossible to say, because once you think you've got an handle on this, once you think I'm not going to say, oh yeah, at East Yorkshire, because I genuinely got no idea. Because I think, although we're in an active area, I do believe that there's going to be other areas within the UK, all around the world, that are just as active. They've probably just not got people investing enough time to look. You know, I mean, it's like that guy that on the UFO report that Les read out earlier, he got up and went and stood at his back door in the night. Oh, I know what time Les said. I think he said about 2:30. Who's going to be looking at these hours? I get people in these villages. I'll not name a particular village, but in these villages around East and North Yorkshire, saying, "Well, we've never seen we've never seen anything. How come they're seeing things? Well, people who are reporting to me are rock anglers on cliff tops in middle of winter. There's nobody there apart from these guys. People out at sea in boats. Fools like me stood on cliff tops in middle of winter, or people who decided they want to go into some forest in night, winter, summer, anytime you want. There's nobody there during the night, or very few people. That's where you're seeing these things, because don't forget, unexplained phenomena does not present to order, but let's also be mindful of the fact that whatever it is, it's very, very clever, and that's why people see these things when there's next to no other witnesses usually, or when you least expect it, it's at the middle at night, or all these other times. You're not going to see one while you're walking down High Street, going to Greggs for a sausage roll, are you? You could do, but And I mean, it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and I think just to add to that, Paul, is what's been talked about repeatedly and numerous occasions is the fact that it seems that you have no thoughts of bringing out any electronic equipment to video these things.
That's a good point.
When you see them, that's sort of like it lapses your
knows.
memory, and if you do, a lot of people report that their electronic equipment fails.
Andrew Collins came up and he brought a considerable amount of audio equipment up and a thermal camera, and all his equipment failed. I've had cameras fail. Steve Ashbridge has. I don't know if you've been up there on a night, Liz, and had that happen. But I agree with what whoever said that. I do agree that taking the equipment with you to a lesser degree is going to suppress your chances of filming something. But I'm afraid when I sit here and I'm talking to people who, I don't mean demanding proof, but are wanting some kind of proof, I'll still be taking it. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I will be doing, because that's the nature of me. If there is going to be any chance of filming it, I want to try.
Yeah, Blue Shift. I might have to paraphrase this a little bit. I know Paul's a strong guy, and Les was probably a strong guy back in the day. And would I be right in that you could more than look after yourself? I guess he means when we're in the woods and places like that.
Do you know? I don't think it'd matter what kind of stature you were, and I'll jump straight to the gamekeeper up in the forests around Cropton. I mean, back in the day, he would have been a lot younger, but he's still that presence and that imposing guy. I mean, when we met him, he was 21 stones, and if you've seen the guy Eddie Hall, similar stature to Eddie Hall. But when I said to him, "What do you think this thing could have done?" Bearing in mind he bolted the door of the farmhouse and barricaded the back door, he said it could have come through a wall if it wanted. So to answer your question, I'm not sure any kind of bravado would do. I mean, let's look at people who claim to be abducted by diminutive alien greys. It's almost like they get you in a spell. They don't look physically imposing enough to do anything to you. But we don't often hear of people grabbing hold of one of these things and shoving it in a bag and saying, "Look what I've got." Do you know? I think it's all beyond us. If it's the true unexplained phenomena that we're talking about.
Yes, and if I'm honest, Paul, and I will be honest, I've actually stood in the wood with you and other people, but I've asked you directly, if one of these creatures presented itself in front of yourself, what would you do?
I wouldn't run, but I would not be going towards it. I think that with any kind of animal, I think if you showed fear, then you're fair game, aren't you? Let's not forget that now we jump back to Broxer. All three men, well, the two witnesses we interviewed, believed that whatever it was wanted them to split up. They stuck together as a unit, and they believe it wanted them to split up. For what reasons, I don't know, and I guess they'll never know if their assumption, their feeling it wanted them to split up is correct. But that's what they felt at the time. And I've heard people say, "Oh, well, if I saw this thing, I'd just go straight up to it. I'd do this, I'd do that." All I can say is, you'd be braver than me. There's no way I would. Do you know what I mean? And I'm wrong age to do it like that anyway, but there's no way on this earth that I would be approaching something like that. I'll actively go out into the areas, hoping, maybe I'm naive, people, but hoping to have an experience. I think if the witness is willing to come with us, and the witness is willing to lay on the line what they've seen and experienced, the least I can do is spend some time there with them, but not in a bravado way.
Pete Masters is asking, and welcome to the show, Peter, and hi, please ask about St John's Avenue in the last few nights.
Yeah, last few nights. And this has come to me straight from the horse's mouth, because he's just asked the question. And we're not saying what it is, we've no idea what it is, but this guy's no mug. And about 2:30 in the morning last night, St John's Avenue in Bridlington, this people. We were hoping we might see something on Facebook, on social media, that somebody might have heard it. It's very close to the Gypsy Race, the stream that runs up from up on the Wolds. There's loads of legends attached to the Gypsy Race. It's called Woe Waters. So look at Les eating sweeties. Oh, it's probably only me can see him, sorry. So, so it's close to the Gypsy Race. But the last night and a few nights ago, this guy contacted me to say that he'd been woken in the night by a strange animal that's on the move. It sounds like it's moving down the Gypsy Race. Am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I think you've lived in Oregon, and so what you're saying is you've heard wolves, you've heard coyotes, you definitely know what fox sound like and other animals, and you're saying that it's none of these things. I've only got Peter's word. I've asked him to get some recording equipment, see if we can record whatever it is. But it's 2:30 in the morning, and it seems to be moving down the Gypsy Race. Bearing in mind, we could walk down Gypsy Race in Wellingtons, unless there's been a severe storm. So I'm not saying it's a person, but I don't think anybody's going to be acting about and trying to wind people up at 2:30 in the morning by making massive guttural growling and howls. I don't know. But he's heard it twice now, 2 nights in a row, St John's Avenue, Bridlington. So, yeah, we just put it out there, Peter. And I see Steve Ashbridge in. Hi, Steve, how you doing?
And got to welcome everybody onto the stream, everybody from around the world and the UK. Hope you're enjoying what you're listening to and watching. Sorry, I'm eating a leftover sweet from Christmas.
Oh, God.
Sorry about that.
Been on chair, has it?
Probably. I think at this point we are looking at 10 to 8. I think if we play the film that we have, and I hope it plays actually, we won't give any introduction to it, but it is a story about some campers in the woods. That's all we can say, because the introduction is really in the video itself. Yeah. Isn't that right, Paul?
Yeah, you just go for it.
And if there's any questions on that, you can pop them in the chat as well.
Well, I'll hang about, Les, till after the film. It's 15-20 minutes, people.
15,
and if you've got any questions, we'll have you to try and answer them afterwards. Obviously, if the sound doesn't play, we'll be back to you for another 15-20 minutes.
If you've got issues with the sound, guys, then just let us know in the chat. So I'm going to play it now.
Today, I'm really pleased to be talking to Sam, who's going to tell us about a strange experience, well, I would say a frightening experience, that he had many years ago. And, we're going to hear about it now. Sam, welcome to Truth Proof.
Nice to be here, mate.
Thank you. And you start at the beginning with what happened, the events of that frightening night, if you don't mind, please, or if you want to give us a breakdown on yourself and the actual location, do that as well.
Yeah. I'm a local lad from Sheffield, and within 5 miles from where I used to live, there was a place called Wharnecliffe Woods. Now, a lot of people in that area will know it has got a little bit of a reputation, but we were only young lads, 18, and we decided to go camping. What happened that day? We had planned to actually go in early, but one of the lads had to work, so we waited and we waited, and he had to work some overtime as well. So we ended up going a lot later than what we normally would. We would have walked in, but by this time it was dark, and his mother, she gave us a lift and dropped us off on Jawbone Hill.
Okay, Les.
All the locals will know where that is. And we walked in from there. It was pitch black once we got into the woods. It was about 9:30ish. We had a rough idea where we wanted to go. Anyway, we were walking in for about a mile, and we got to a certain point where there's a bit of a waterfall, and just turned right straight into the woods. I would estimate we went in about 100, 150 yards, found a little spot, a little opening in the trees, For anybody who hasn't actually been there, it looks like a bit of a pine tree plantation where the trees are really close together. When I say close together, they might be 3 or 4 feet apart, but you could, as they're growing up together, they intermingle. Do you know what I mean? The branches, and you can push through them.
Are they mature trees,
No,
Sam?
they weren't. They were the actual trunks were only like 4, 5 inch, 3, 4, 5 inch. So they're only young trees.
Yeah.
So we walked in. Like I say, it was pitch black. The ferns. It was late, early September-ish. So the ferns were still pretty high. When I say pretty high, they might be 3 foot high. So it was pretty thick. Actually, you couldn't see the ground. It was just ferns, and then the ferns were literally up to the bottom of the trees, the pine trees. So anyway, we walked in and we found a little spot. It looked like somebody took a tree out. So they've got an area about 6 or 7 foot round. And we decided to camp there for night.
Right.
So we managed to, the only light we had with us was a little wind-up torch. And so for one of us were winding torch up, while others were collecting wood. Anyway, we got us wood. Anyway, we settled down. I got a little bit of fire going. And we just settled down and just group of lads just having a laugh. We've been doing that for a couple of hours. The fire wasn't a big fire, it was just a little one. We didn't get it too big in case it caught or anything like that. So,
were you youngest out of this group? What age group were we talking about with these?
I was the youngest, yeah. I turned 18 in June. Then there was my next mate, he was 20. Then they were 23. And then they were the oldest, he was 30. But he was just like a big kid anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all right. Good set of lads.
Right.
Anyway,
okay.
we went in and we settled down. And after a couple of hours, things started to go a bit quiet. They started to nod off. One on my left were asleep. One on my right were asleep. The one across from me, he brought a sleeping bag. And he got into his sleeping bag. And everything went quiet. And I said I'd keep awake just to keep fire going. So I'm just feeding sticks in. Anyway, I got my back against a tree, and I must have nodded off. The fire was still going. It wasn't, like I say, it wasn't a big fire, but it was enough to cast some light. And it's only a small area anyway. And I had my back against a tree, and I actually had a twig snap. Now, anybody who's been camping at night, you're surrounded. You get to feel the surroundings, the noises and the wind blowing through the trees and whatever. But there were hardly any wind at all. It wasn't even a breeze. Pretty still night, really. And I had this twig snap, and I looked up to see my friend, who was, well, like I say, 6 foot away from me. He was upside down, 3 foot off the ground. And I shouted, swear word, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it dropped him, and he landed on his head. And
what he screaming at this point?
He was, when he realised he were up, because I was like, I heard the snap, I opened my eyes, and it was like on the verge of getting up to the height where he was straight down. And then he realised what were happening, and he started kicking and screaming. And he dropped on the floor, and this thing what picked him up just shot off away from me that way. And the crashing, it wasn't, like I say, it weren't snapping, it was just pushing stuff out of the way, just ripping its way through what were in front of it.
Bulldozing through wood.
Well, I wouldn't say bulldozing, but it would do it like nothing could stop it. It would just go straight forward, crashing and banging and whatever. And as like I said, we can't believe what's happening here. That's gone that way. And then at the back of me, there was like, it was like I don't know if you've ever heard wood split. It goes with, it's like a shotgun going off. Yeah. And there's something at the back of me just ripped. It sounded like it ripped a tree, and the noise it was deafening, the noise.
Yeah.
And that's when we thought, like, there's more than one. There's more than one. And like I said, by this time we were absolutely panicking. One of my mates, he was like setting him mad. He was just crazy. We had to literally jump on him to keep him in this circle of light, because
would
only
he
thing
have
would have
gone
run
running
off.
into the woods? Yeah.
He would have run off. And believe me or not, you got that feeling. If you left that light, you weren't going home, mate. That's the feeling we got.
Sam, you know when you heard the twig snap?
Yeah.
Do you think that was deliberate, or do you think that was a mistake on? You can describe what you saw in a moment, but whatever it was that lifted your friend up.
I think it was a mistake, because I didn't hear it reach over to grab him or anything like that. I honestly think it messed up.
Yeah.
I honestly do.
I wonder if, I mean, obviously we're never going to know, and you lived that experience. I haven't, but I wonder if it were just there to create fear, or whether it intended taking him. I know all these things, it's all hypothetical now, because we'll never know.
Yeah.
What were your views?
But at the time, it wasn't only me. We thought we were going to die, mate. We honestly thought we were going to die. I've never felt anything like it since. And I've been in some dodgy situations, and nothing has ever felt like that night.
The fear that put on you.
Yeah.
So when you looked over and you saw your friend, did you say he's approximately 6 foot tall?
It was about 6 foot, 6'1", yeah. Bodybuilder, I'd say he was about 15 stone.
Yeah.
And as I looked up, I saw something that grabbed him around the calves and picked him up. But I said it looked like an arm.
Yeah.
A big arm had picked him up. And as he picked him, I noticed there was I've picked him up there.
Yeah.
There was a tree here, like a how can I say, like a trunk. It was like an old tree, and I noticed it was like the hair. I can only call it hair or fur, whatever you want to call it, but it was about that long from the arm.
Oh, hanging from the arm.
And hanging down, and I noticed on the back of the hand, the hair came to about there, and all that was black skin.
Before back at knuckle.
Yeah. And all the back of the knuckles and the back of the fingers, because that's what they were, fingers, were black skin, shiny black skin.
And so this guy, it didn't pick him up by the ankle then, it picked him up by the calf.
No, we picked him up by the calf. We didn't actually, when we got back the next day, because we went straight home once it got light, we legged it out of there. He only used to live just up the road from me, and once we got back and had a bit of a sleep, we met up again, and his calves were black, absolutely black, with bruising, like black bruising, just purple on his calves, not on his ankles. His ankles were fine.
Did he try and describe or explain what had happened to his parents or his girlfriend or anything?
Well, he actually went to the doctors, and the doctors thought he'd been crushed. Like they said, it was like a pressure bruising.
Yeah.
And like, so you know what it's like in that country. If you're talking about things like that, you get locked up. You know what I mean? You get ridiculed so much.
You can't imagine circumference of that hand to go around. Did it? Do we know if it went around both calves or just one?
Both of his calves. So I mean, it was big. It was a big hand, and I don't know if it had picked him up with the tree between it, because I couldn't see the back one. Yeah. I could only see this front, but the circumference, the width of the bruise was about that. I would say about 6 inch.
6 inches. So just because people will be interested in the detail here, Sam. So this guy's 6 foot tall. How far do you estimate he was off the ground, his head to the ground? 2 foot, 3 foot?
3 foot. I would say 3 foot, yeah.
So we're talking 9 foot then. And this thing's arm, what it out straight or up in air?
No, it was dead straight, mate. It was dead straight, and it was big. What I saw, the hair was down here. I could see mainly the hair on the forearm, which was down here, but the bicep was like that.
Huge.
It was absolutely massive.
Well, so if he's 6'1", this has got him by calf. We're looking at something that's like definitely over 8 foot tall, but between 8 and 10 foot tall.
I would presume so, yeah.
Shoulder to head. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And there's no other word for it. That's terrifying. Do you know if that wood has got a history of other sightings? I think there are other things being seen there.
They have, because the actual Wharnecliffe Woods, as you're on Job on Hills at the back of you, Job on Road, you've got Wharnecliffe Woods, and then if you walk straight through the woods, it actually takes you onto the crags, Wharncliffe Crags. People have supposedly seen things, and dogs have been disappearing and stuff like that over years.
Obviously, there's a little bit more to this story that we will get to, but what after all these years, we're going back to, I think it's what year approximately?
87.
1987. Yeah. After all these years, have you come to any conclusions in your own mind what these things were, as in, do you think they're actually living in that wood, or do you think it's something transient that visits us, paranormal?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, mate. Obviously, you think, first thing what comes to mind, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them, but they're all in America, aren't they? Well, what people think. Yeah. So, but I mean, in England, we've got no bears. No. You know what I mean?
It wouldn't have fingers. A bear wouldn't be able to encompass somebody's calf, would it?
I wouldn't have thought so, no, mate.
No. So after it's picked him up, it's dropped him. What happens then throughout the night?
Well, like I say, by this time, I don't know how long I'd nodded off for. It must have been early morning, should I say. Still, everything's pitch black. And like I say, it ran off straight across from me. And then there were that tree splitting at the back of me. And then it just, once that had tapered away, the noise had tapered away in front, it just went quiet still. But we're still panicking. This fire, we couldn't go too big because we were forcing ourselves out to the edge of this light, because do you know what I mean? So we just putting little bits on just so we can see him. And we were all panicking. And then it might be, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. You think, it's gone. And then another big crash, and an ear-splitting crash.
An exploding tree.
Back on again, and you'd hear something walking round you. Weird things walking round us. Like I said, there were more than one, because you'd hear something there, then you'd hear something at the back of you, to the side of you. And this went on, it went on for hours, mate. It went on for like 4 or 5 hours. And then, like I say, when it actually ended as such, you looked up into trees and you could see the sky getting lighter, so you know it's coming dawn. Yeah. But it's still dark under trees, you know what I mean? Mm. And mate, we waited till we could see like we're looking now before we went out into that. And as soon as we got so we could see clear enough, we were out of there, mate. We were out, and we didn't walk, we legged it out of there, mate.
Do you know, it doesn't sound dissimilar to some of the things that happened to the 3 witnesses in Wolflands that me and Les have been working on. Obviously, this thing did not crash through the trees, but the actual fear factor and the fact that you guys I mean, you were consoling one of your friends because you thought he were going to go charging off into woods and disappear. Do you think these things wanted you to split up because that's what the guys in Broxford Forest thought?
I think it did, yeah. I think it did. Now, what its intentions were, because, I mean, animals, unless they're actually going to do something, they keep away from you. Do you know what I mean? They go away. But this come up close, actually grabbed me mate, and only intentions we thought that had on its mind, we were going to take him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You had to grab him though, didn't it? He can't, even though he's in a sleeping bag, do you think that was just pure luck? Because it could have been his head.
It could have been, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know?
But whether they were watching us on the way in, you know what I mean? Whether they followed us in or whatever, I don't think they just bumped upon us. No, just dropped upon us. I think they knew we were there.
Yeah.
And they probably waited till it gone quiet, and then made the move. So, and I can only think that their intentions weren't all that good, mate.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying experience, and it's probably took us 20, 25 minutes to discuss this story. But I'm sure our listeners will be absolutely thrilled to hear this, and I feel privileged to get this story because I know that because it's so bizarre and not in a bad way, because a lot of people that have come to us of similar mind to you, it's something you don't really want to talk about because you know the bulk of the population, it's an head bender. They're not going to get their head round the fact that you've experienced this, and last thing you want to do is share the account and other people go, what a load of rubbish, because it's so deeply personal and traumatizing to you at the time. And everybody that we've come across, Sam, has spoken with a similar passion. I know this is real. I knew the first time we spoke that you were on the level with this. Just before we sort of wind this section, well, this part of the story down, the explosions that you heard every 15 to 30 minutes. I know you're not timing it, throughout the night. Was that the busting of trees?
Oh, it sounded like, if you've ever heard wood splitting, it goes with a crack. You know what I mean? And you hear the like you get a branch, a branch, and you snap it. I can say times 10 that it was just loud, just really loud at back here, and it was just cracking around.
Everything seems by design, doesn't it? You know, it starts with the bang and they're off again. And how long did it last? Each bout of fear, how long did they last?
Couple of minutes, but it was like, it wasn't just in one specific spot. Once it kicked off in one area, it like went, like I said, round us. We could actually hear walking round us, but it weren't just like, you could hear it going round us. It's like we felt like we were surrounded. We actually felt like we were surrounded.
And you're on the edge of this darkness, and I suppose that part of the fear was, are you going to get extracted back into the darkness?
We were hugging that fire, mate. We were hugging that fire. Like I say, Scott, he was the one that wanted to run, and we literally had to jump on him. We literally had to hold him down because he was absolutely frantic.
And how did it affect people after that?
Well, excuse me. We got home. I got in. My mother, she got up. She went, "Oh, you're back early." And I said to my mother, "You'll never guess what's happened." And I told her. And she said to me, "Oh, Gio, what drugs have you been taking?"
Yeah.
And we were healthy as we were starting, we were bodybuilding and stuff like that. You don't take drugs and shit like that. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, then, if my mother's going to say that to me, what stranger's going to say? So we just kept it amongst ourselves. We hardly ever talked about it. As far as I know, none of other lads told their parents or family or whatever. We kept it to ourselves.
Well, I feel privileged that you've shared this with us. I really do. Well, Sam, what an absolutely amazing story. Well, we've lived it with you, And I suppose our listeners, they've seen that you've been pixelated out throughout this account that you've shared with us, and rightly so, because you wanted to retain your anonymity. And I think part of the reason that you've not shared it for all these years is quite telling. So on behalf of myself and Les and Truth Proof, thank you very much and have a great day. Goodbye.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, lads.
You can go whenever you want, Les.
Wow. Yes, we are back live, and that was a great account from a witness there, who had a witness in South Yorkshire and Wharnecliffe Woods, and I know a few people in the chat live near there. In fact, Paul, I think there was a question from Tino. Sam wasn't live, Tino, and I know you're asking the question to Sam, but Tino is asking, is the incident near Stocksbridge Bypass? That's a place that has a spooky reputation. So if anybody in the chat can point us in that direction.
It has, Tino, and I'm from South Yorkshire, but not Sheffield, and Rotherham's as close as I'd get to that, but it'll not be far away. But it would be interesting, anybody listening to this, not necessarily tonight or in the future, who've got any reports from that area, Wharnecliffe Woods, of a similar nature or UFO related. You know, I mean, let's be hearing them, because this guy, it took him ages to tell us that. And, you know, I've been speaking to him for years, and I'm so pleased, even though he came on and he was pixelated, I'm so grateful that he decided he would share that story, because it's one thing me telling it, it's a lot better when, you know, when it comes from the horse's mouth, should we say.
Yeah, and don't forget, folks, if you do have any questions on that
yeah,
incident,
let's have your thoughts on it, please.
Yeah, let's have your thoughts on that, because I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't like to have been in any of them guys' positions that night. And there's a little bit of housekeeping, and I think we're at that stage, Paul. So it's tell people what they can do if they don't know anything about you, Paul. Have you got any books for sale? And if you have, where can they buy them?
Well, the Kindles are for sale on Amazon, obviously Amazon Kindle. The paperbacks are on eBay. If you go to Truth Proof on eBay, you'll find them. Or alternatively, go to the truthproof.uk website, and you can get the paperbacks if you wanted them from the website. And, you know, there's 5 books. It don't matter what order you start in, really, even though it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the Night People, because they're all about accounts of the strange and strange happenings around East North Yorkshire and beyond now, because we've started expanding out into other places, and we'll be going overseas. I would think there's lots of information. I've so much information. There's enough for at least 1 book already. But these documentary projects I'm interested in at the moment, so the books are going to have to wait. Yeah, and any reports, please send them to the Truth Proof website. Between myself and Don Lodge, they'll find their way on there. Thank you.
And I'm glad you mentioned Don Lodge, actually, because Don ran as Truth Proof, a very successful Zoom call recently. And we did repost that Zoom call on the Truth Proof YouTube channel. So we thought it was pretty good. It was more interactive than obviously the format that we do now. And we probably feel that we could do some more in 2023. So yeah, look out for them. We will be in touch with Don, and it was very successful.
I think it will. Give us an idea of a day that might be better if you want people, because I do realise that we're looking at the chat as I was listening to Sam talking there. We had well over 200 in, and obviously on a Zoom call, we might only get between 30 and 50, because don't forget Don's got to sort of police it in case anybody wants to say oh tasty towards us. So you know, if you do want to get involved in Zoom calls, let's have your input and yeah, let us know what you feel. If there's a particular day that comes back for better, or do you want us to replace a Thursday to do odd Zoom call? We're not talking about loads of them, probably 2 or 3 a year, 4 a year tops maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and as Paul said, just give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Feedback would be great. Right, I'll move on to a question from Rachel Dawson, Paul. Paul, I enjoyed reading all your books. Are you working on any more?
Well, thank you for saying you enjoyed reading them, firstly, but I'm always writing. I've written up, I've got it in front of me here, look. And it'll end up in a book, and it's a deep sea diver report from 1979. But I won't be doing a book anytime soon. But I keep putting all these stories together, and so I suppose what I'm saying is, if I do decide to do a book, when I decide it'll probably come together quick, because most of it will be done. Because if I get up at 5 a.m. and I spend a couple of hours on a story, and you do 1,000, 2,000 words, and you want to end a book at about 90,000 over a year, you're going to be there, aren't you, easily? So I will be doing some more, yeah. But for the moment, well, I can still walk about and get in these places. 60-year-old now, people. Don't feel like it, but I am, and I've got to realise that. So while I'm still able to get to these places and get there actively and reasonably fit, I'm making most of it. There's plenty of time to write books.
Yeah, that's great. Bobby Dazzler is asking, any reports in the UK of giants, historically or recent?
Scotland, there is. I haven't got the information to mind, Bobby Dazzler. Amanda, I know it's Amanda who comes onto Cliffs with us, and but there are reports of giant hairy men, giant wild men in Scotland, and people are going to be laughing tongue in cheek now. Probably they still are. They're still out there. They're on every street in Edinburgh and Dunfermline. But just joking, like, but historically there are reports of tribes of giants, and they're probably in other places in the UK that I've just never found or dug out.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those, because there is dense forest in
Yeah.
Scotland, obviously. In fact, they've introduced wild wolves, haven't they, in certain areas of Scotland?
Right, okay.
There's been a reintroduction of wolves in Scotland. So, yeah, if you go investigating in them areas, I don't think you want to be in a position where you come across a wolf.
Well, try not to.
Right, I'll move on a little bit then. My question, I think this is from you, Sky. Correct me if I'm wrong. Has Paul been to Danes Dyke and seen some rock out there over the Christmas period?
I've been to Danes Dyke. I took our new dog, the Bobby Wolf. I took him, and we had a little wander around, but I've not seen the rock art. I did see it rock art that somebody posted on Truth Proof page. You know, it's
Right.
obviously not ancient rock art, is it? But it's interesting nevertheless.
Okay, and I think my last question here, actually, on this pad, says, it's from Chris James. Welcome to the show,
Hi, Chris.
Chris. Yeah. Paul, have you heard any more of the green lights seen in the North Sea as seen by myself?
I haven't. No, I mean, you know, as you know, we saw, like myself and Bob Brown saw white lights off Bempton back in 2017, and green lights more so down Withensea, Ulrome, and what they are, I don't know. But no, I've not heard any more, Chris. No, and I love these reports of. Well, you can't call them USOs. We don't know what they are. I don't think it's bioluminescence, although we know that exists. But I don't think we're in right hemisphere to see concentrated examples of bioluminescence. But yeah, there you go.
Well, that's all the questions on my pad at the moment, Paul, and I don't know if you want to.
Well, I'll go through this deep sea report,
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
because I was writing it this morning.
Okay.
So we're going to 1979. I've talked about it briefly, but I've never. It's not going to take hours, but I've never sort of talked about it and kind of dissected it. And it's a fisherman called a deep sea diver called Peter Fergus. That's his real name. And Peter contacted me. We had a few telephone conversations to tell me about his UFO sighting whilst working with a Flamborough fisherman, the guys who have the cobbles at Flamborough. You know, there's a few families there that are, the names are renowned. I'll not say fisherman's name, although I've got it in front of me. And he's allowed me to record the conversation and everything, and said he's okay to do that. But obviously this guy might not want his name mentioned. So what the Flamborough fisherman and the deep sea diver decided to do were team up, and he would go out and and collect lobsters from the seabed around the coast of Flamborough and Bempton, come to the surface, drop them into the boat. You know, obviously we put lobster pots down, and lobsters, you put a bit of bait in and lobsters go in, but them lobsters are active and they're not used to seeing people. And the fisherman, so the diver's got a bit more savvy, and he can catch these things. So they're making a decent living. But there's been a massive storm, and there's a big swell, and the visibility is zilch. It's just absolutely terrible. So the fisherman, with his local knowledge, says, let's go to Breel Nuke. You can find these locations on a map area, and there's what's called King and Queen Rock, some sort of rock outcrops that have, everything else has fell away around them. I think King Rock's gone now. There's only Queen Rock standing. But back in the day, King Rock would have been there as well. So they go there because he's an idea that the storm will have ripped shellfish up from the seabed, mussels and winkles. So they go in the boat and they go around to the cove where King and Queen Rock is, Breel Nuke. And sure enough, there's some massive winkles all washed up on the shore. Says there were really big winkles. He said, and we took 20 fertilizer bags with us, and we filled them all with these winkles, which they then sold to a pickles or a pickling factory in Hull. And I'm cutting short, I'm not saying name. You realise there's so many things that can trap you. You know, if I said name and they're using fertilizer bags to put winkles in, and somebody's going to say, "Oh, they shouldn't have been putting them in them." So you realise I'm telling the story as he's told me. So they've got these 20 bags on the shore, and it's about dinner time, and they decide to have a few sandwiches and a break. And let's just go a bit further. It's a crystal clear day. It's about 12:30ish. No clouds, apart from one in front of them, and they're looking out. He's not spoke to his mate about this cloud at this time. It's a small circular cloud. And he can see a round, shiny thing inside the cloud. Really bright. And he looks away and looks again. And in the time he's looking, this round, shiny thing's become brighter, and it's dropped from the sky to the surface of the sea. Sounds like the Tic Tac, this, to be honest with you. It's amazing. Well, this is 1979. It's dropped to the surface of the sea, and it's gone to Filey. That, bear in mind, that's 6 miles away. And he says the action it did was drop and literally stop, pause, and go. He says, and all that took 2 seconds, and it went out of sight at Filey. So it's incredible. 1979. We know we had high-tech technology then, but it's just incredible. You know, I've no reason to believe this guy's spinning me a yarn. Down, gone. He said, you know, when a car sets off really fast and it leaves a plume behind it, not a trail of smoke from the exhaust, just a plume. He said, all that's left above the sea is this plume. He says, and I said to the fisherman, look at that. He went, oh yeah, what was that? He said, because it was silent. He goes, I don't know. And he says, I explained to him what had just happened. He says, the Flamborough fisherman went, oh, right, that's odd, isn't it? And that's all he said. Said, so we carried on eating and having a coffee, and I'm sort of pondering what I've just seen. He says, 5 minutes passed. 2 lightnings went straight overhead, about 200 foot above us, in the direction of where this object had just gone, on full afterburner. He said, absolutely sounded incredible, just roaring and crackling through the sky. So basically, that's the story. It's a short, I think, but incredible story. 1979. And don't forget, if we come round corner just a little bit from where he saw it, we come to Crab Rocks, where the guys in 1963, when people will have heard me tell this story many times, were all in crab pots. And they duck because they see the reflection of something in water and look up, and just above their head, there's a baseball-sized sphere of milky white light that just shoots off into distance. 1963. Let's play with the idea that all these people are telling me truth, or just one is. where does that leave us? Because did we have that kind of technology in 1963? Do you know what I mean? Or in 1979? You know, we're hearing people. Only thing we're lacking here is we've got anecdotal evidence. We don't have video footage. But what this guy describes, what Dave Fergus describes, is an object dropping from the sky. Bosh, pauses momentarily and gone. He said it left a ripple along the sea. I forgot about that bit as it left as well. Incredible sighting, absolutely incredible, and not unreminiscent of what they were describing with this thing, what they called the tic tac, really. And in its movements, he said it literally did a right angle, dropped and did a right, which is it's a fabulous sighting. More questions, please, people, because you know I've not really planned out tonight, so I'd welcome some questions.
Free and easy, yeah. The drink is flowing. The mince pies are getting a little bit hard, but they're still edible.
No, they've gone.
And right, I have one or two questions in, but I have picked up on a couple of stories off the Truth Proof reporting page as well. But we'll go with a couple of questions here. Rachel Dawson, hi Sky. I did ask a question earlier about Paul's encounters with alien beings and whether he has had any recent encounters or has he considered hypnotic regression?
People have spoken about hypnotic regression in the past, and a good friend of mine, Derek Taylor, said you might not want to find out any more than what you already know, and that might be the reason you can't remember anymore, which is a good point. Or there could be the other thing that would I embellish unknowingly? Would you know? I just don't know. No, I don't think I would consider it, if I'm being truthful, for those reasons. When I wrote Night People, I literally put everything down that I could remember, and there's a lot of gaps. There's loads of gaps. I haven't got a story that starts at beginning, finishes, and you've got everything in between. There's just loads of gaps. But and I'm happy to have done that. I didn't want to try and surmise what might have happened, because what happens if you start trying to add what could have happened, it kind of settles and becomes a truth in a person's mind over time. And I don't want that. I'll try and stick with what I remember. And you know, I've heard people. It was like last week we had the great guy Preston Denneton, and he was saying that the people he'd interviewed, for the most part, had good experiences with what we will call alien beings. We've got to call them alien. They're from somewhere, and they don't necessarily mean they're extraterrestrial. And it was the only thing. I don't mean I challenged him on, but the only thing I disagreed with him on, because there was nothing good. Nothing that leaves holes in your arms and your back is good, in my opinion. Nothing that leaves a small boy wet in the bed till he's 13 because he's that frightened to leave the bedroom, and this whatever it is whispering in your ear. And you know, I'm not. I don't hear voices. I don't hear things now. Do you know what I mean? These were actually in my ear, not in my head. And yeah, there's nothing good in it. And I don't welcome any more of that kind of thing, which is strange, you know, because I said before, it kind of stopped at about, I would have thought about 18, 19. And we had a period where we lived at Mexborough, then we lived at Sprotborough Road, Edlington, then Sprotborough Road. A few things happened at Edlington. A few strange things happened at Sprotborough Road, but I wouldn't say, we'll call it alien related. But moved to Bridlington. Within 2 days, it were there again. It were happening again. I don't know. Sometimes wonder if everything's mapped out for all of us. Strange, isn't it? But, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, MKMD Exploration and Paranormal is asking, hi Paul, what are your thoughts with these unexplained UFOs being seen at ultra high speeds, faster than fighter jets? How are they avoiding breaking sound barriers?
Good point. I mean, it's like the USOs, and once again, I think it's Mike. I can only surmise because we haven't got none of us have got an handle on this unless some high power within the government knows exactly what's happening. We'll jump to the USOs. They reckon they're not even touching the water in some instances. They're creating a vacuum around themselves as they're travelling. And I mean, I don't know whether that's right or wrong. How are they avoiding it, Mike? I don't know. I really don't know. But when you look at the speeds and the speeds we've seen some of these things move up on the Wolds, myself and Steve Ashbridge, it kind of defies logic, because I don't know if I don't even know if they're moving, because come on, you're going to sound silly here, Paul. They're switching off and suddenly they're there, and then you're looking and they're in a different part of the sky. Now, are they moving that fast that we can't even perceive the movement? Or is there some other ability happening? Some other sort of technology at work? I don't know.
And let's have a look then. Right. Kind of a welfare question here from Tom Waters, and it's
Right,
good of you to ask here. He's asking actually about Bob, and how's he getting on after his operation? Do you know have any updates on that?
He's good. I haven't actually seen him today. I went up and spoke with him a couple of times yesterday, and he's been in chat earlier. Obviously, for those that don't know, he had a knee operation last week, and he's been in a bit of pain, but I've never had a knee operation, but I should imagine anybody that's had a knee replacement, it's a pretty traumatic experience for body parts involved, so you're going to be in pain. He's on the mend, Tom, thank you, and I'm sure he'll appreciate you asking.
And for those who don't know what Bob does, Bob has his own radio show. If you could
Beacon and Light Radio, which is on a Wednesday and a Friday, and he has some great guests on. You know, he really does have some good guests on the show. I went past his interview with James Fox, who we're hoping to interview in New Year, and lots of top flight guests, yeah.
Okay then, Paul, I'll just go on to... I've picked out another couple of reports off the reporting page on the website. Okay. And this one kind of ties in same area, back at Bempton. And this is from Adrian. All right, and Adrian is saying, hi Paul, it's 22nd of November, 2:30 in the morning, last year, 2021 actually. Photo below, there is a photo, so anybody who wants to see this, it's report number 168 on the Truth Proof reporting page, and it was taken at Bempton Village out towards the cliffs. I was alone for around half an hour. I saw a purplish, pinkish light in the sky, and upon further study decided to take my camera out and start shooting at an object appearing and disappearing. It had what looks like a pink cloud going in and out of it. And just recently, when I've had a closer look on the PC at the picture, I've noticed a light on the far right hand side of the picture, which is very small and zoomed in, but I can't believe my eyes. Paul, this has done my head in for nearly a year, so if you could shed any light on it, please feel free to contact me.
Well, I think all it does is just highlight the area's strangeness, and once again, 2:30 in the morning. Do you know what I mean? It's an hour when there's not many people about, when these things are being seen. I mean, myself and Bob, we've picked all sorts of times to go up there, and there don't seem to be a good time, to be honest with you. But there's only 24 hours in a day, and I have a life outside of this, so there's only so much time you can devote to it. But I thank Adrian for submitting a report. I've seen the photograph. It's not brilliant, but that's no detriment to you, Adrian, because loads of people take photographs of these things, and when you're taking some with your phone in night, high up in the sky, you're just going to get a light, aren't you? If there's any detail surrounding it, it's just going to blow it into a light. And when you're zooming in on this small light, it's going to be pixelated. It's all difficult, isn't it? Hence the reason in investing in lots of money's worth of camera equipment. And then it's not all supposed to be successful, is it, really? You know, we're using the Psionics, we're using the Pulsar thermal imaging cameras. We've just got this Blackmagic camera, the Sony NX80. The best camera I've ever had in low light is a Sony VX2100. which is probably
And
12-year-old. You know, all rounder. It's a
yeah,
great camera. But anyway,
and yeah, I've managed to. For those who can't get access to the webpage for whatever reason, I have dragged one of the images off. I'll just put that on the screen now. Image number 2, I think. Yes, certainly looks purplish to me, and a cloud, and really interesting picture actually. And there is another couple more pictures on the Truth Proof page for you to go and have a look at, which is well worth looking at because a lot of pictures you see taken with cameras, slow shutter speed because of the darkness of the situation, makes a lot of pictures look streaky, doesn't it, Paul?
it does,
And
yeah. Do you know, that's the thing, that we've got a picture on the website that I think is absolutely unique to any picture in the world. And forgive me, but I can't remember the guy's name, and I haven't got the report up. But that's the guy back in 2020 who took a group of photography students up to Flamborough Head to do low light image photography, 30-second exposures. Les will know a bit more about this than me, but basically he sets his camera up on a tripod. He has a remote control. He's framed the area over North Landing, and he takes a picture, and it takes 30 minutes to gather as much information as it can. So anything, if there are a plane travelling through that picture in 30 minutes, you would see this streak. I suppose 30 seconds, apologies people, 30 seconds. So as he's taking the picture, one orange light appears. Somebody spots it and says, "What's that?" He says, "I don't know." Then another one appears. So we'll say 9 seconds in, 15 seconds in, because I don't know sequence now, can't remember, he did tell me. And then he's thinking, come on, I want to get these in the picture before they switch off, kind of thing. I think at about 28 seconds, 27, 28 seconds, a third orange light appears. So there's 3. He takes the picture. There's no motion blur. It kind of confirms what I'm saying. These things aren't traveling from anywhere. They're just appearing. And I feel like I'm doing Guy a disservice because he's given me permission to use photograph and I can't remember his name. So I do apologise if he listens to this. But anybody look on website, find that picture. That is unique. And the way he's taken the photograph disproves so many things. Doesn't tell you what it is, but it tells you what it's not. It's not meteorites, it's not weather balloons, it's not afterburners. It's ruling out everything. It's a great photograph.
okay, I've no more questions on my pad, but I will pull out a report.
I did see a question earlier, Les. So I'll just...
Okay.
Somebody asked me, or asked, I saw it flitting up, do I think the Bigfoot or cryptids are flesh and blood or ET? I don't know. There's something other. They're probably flesh and blood, but there's a lot of attributes that these things have that suggest that they're a lot more than mere flesh and blood. The way the gamekeeper described the creature going down the farmhouse, it arrived. Didn't see leg movement, it arrived. The way that you hear people on other podcasts overseas in America talk about seeing the Bigfoot and they say it seemed to just glide up the hill. Or they talk about lining them up in the sights with a gun, a 30-yard 6, and shooting it, in their words, centre mass, and nothing happens. That tells you it's something more than flesh and blood. In my opinion, the way people often report this communication, that this verbal communication that they get in the mind, not audible through the ears, it's telling you it's more than flesh and blood. The way that our witnesses, and this isn't Bigfoot, this sounds more werewolf related. Well, I'll go with what the witnesses say. I'm not going to go do them a disservice. They said it was a werewolf. You know, and one said werewolf, one said a dog, man. But they described it as having self-illuminating eyes. No torch on these eyes. People, tell me if you know of an animal on this planet that's eyes glow with bioluminescence. A mammal I'm talking about, not some sea creature. and I don't think we have any, do we? I'm not certain, you know. But so I'll tell you what's interesting. When we spent a night in that forest, and I'm not sure the exact location, and we were on paths all the time. We're never far away from beaten track, and bearing in mind it's very remote anyway. But while we're there, and we're with 2 witnesses, and there's me, there's Les, there's Chris Wright. I think that what 5 of us that night. And I kind of looking into it dark and said, "What's that glowing thing there?" And Les looked, and he can't work it out. There's green ones and there's blue ones, and it started to happen at about, I would have thought, in between 1 and 3 a.m. because it weren't there, and it were dark before, but it was velvet thick. And when we put torches on them and walked over, the mushrooms, bioluminescent mushrooms, and I've looked, do a bit of research. It's very rare. I think they find them in Brazil. You can find pictures of children playing with these bioluminescent fungus, and they're huge and they are lit up. But it's very rare. So there's another strange thing to the area. Did they see mushrooms? No. Were they drinking? No. They didn't take alcohol in. They don't do drugs. They're hard-working guys, just like Sam. Because I did see a question come up during Sam's talk as well. So we've not ignored you. Did they take drugs or alcohol? And I were about to answer it after he'd finished, but you know, Sam got to it before us. He said we were sort of clean living lads. He says we'd started weight training. We were doing things. We weren't doing drugs or alcohol. But I know we've gone back to Wharncliffe there, guys. But there you go. Go on then, Les.
Just to pick up on the bioluminescence mushrooms, they're only going to be in that state, bioluminescent, a very short period of the year. Yeah. So you've got to, so people with sightings of other things outside that period, when they got to this stage, these mushrooms, then they're obviously not mushrooms.
Yeah, you've got to factor that in, but you can't. You can't confuse something that rises to 87 inches in the air. We did our due diligence. We took a surveyor's tape in and we measured where they stood with the guys to the tree.
Yeah.
Put a piece of white tape where they thought the eyes were, 87 inches.
Yeah, what I'm kind of talking about there, Paul, is it like talking in general of when you get their other reports, you know?
Yeah,
and,
got you. Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, not particularly the ones that we've dealt with, but yeah. So I'm going to pick up on another kind of report here, which is same area. Anybody familiar with East North Yorkshire, Caton Bay Beach, and this was from Adrian H. Reported this one, and he witnessed something right strange. Now that is a Yorkshire term, folks.
Right strange.
Right strange, yeah. So it was a flashing light out towards the sea. Definitely not a boat. It was in the air. It was about 8 o'clock Thursday, 11th of August this year, and I went for an evening walk down the cliffs on the campsite near the Blue Dolphin Holiday Park. A lot of people I know in the chat will be familiar with that area. I got to the cliffs, had a nice walk over to the Caton Bay Beach. I began to walk back to the campsite just after 9, taking a nice slow walk. I saw 2 flashing lights that looked to be further down the beach. I hadn't seen them the night before on my evening walk, though I thought it was a bit odd, and it was not a fixed light. It was as bright as one light that I could see over towards Scarborough. Right. I lost sight of the light as I walked around the cliffs to my campsite, but then to my surprise I could see more lights appear over the sea. It was about 9:50, 9:55. It was getting dark and there was a fog out to sea. So not only could he see these lights, but he was hampered by the fog, so they must have been pretty powerful to force their way through this fog that was on the sea.
Yeah, I remember that report, Les. You know, and there's a lot of reports of lights sort of on the coast and on the headland, and then suddenly seeing them out at sea. We got one opposite way around only a few months ago, about 6 weeks ago. I don't know if I put it on website even, and he saw lights out at sea. I think he said seven amber lights in a row from Hunmanby. So he's looking at them and he's estimating they're at Bempton or out over that way. Then he's telling me while we're speaking on the phone that they're over the cliffs at Bempton now, but he hasn't seen them fly over. They've just switched off over the sea, and suddenly he can see seven amber lights over the cliffs at Bempton. And myself and Bob, after he'd rang me, myself and Bob went up that same night. Nothing. Don't equate that you're going to see anything. I went up the following night. I went up at 4 o'clock and stayed till 8, and I saw them twice. Didn't get a camera on them. They literally just opened up and closed, and we're on in ones over at sea. So, sorry, Les, you were going to say something?
No, I was just concluding his report really that he actually saw another 4 lights that started from right to left, 2 in the middle. It was in a straight line, one above the other, about 35 to 40 feet apart. From where I was standing, I saw the first 2 lights on the beach before I saw the lights out at sea. They were about half a mile to 3/4 of a mile away, tops, and they didn't make a sound. It was very oddly quiet as well.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of reports that are coming out of the area, and you've got to stress to the people who aren't necessarily interested in the subject and think, well, no, it's not. People are sending us these reports. We're not contriving them. I've got another one from Flamborough of a young boy. I haven't got the date. It's probably on website, but I've missed the date off. But we're going back a good number of years, and he saw he's at his granddad's bungalow at Flamborough Head, overlooking the sea, on a camp bed, and he says that during the night he woke, and he could see through the curtains the shadow, his words, of a man with a dog's head that walking past the window. And he's certain that's what he's seen. And he'd have never, ever, he didn't tell his parents, he didn't tell his grandparents, and he'd have never, ever spoken about it. But I don't know whether it's curiosity or whether he's just been, I don't know, just looking on the internet, because he's not a young man now. And he's come across truth proof and these quirky reports and thought, good God, is there some truth to this? It's a crazy one. I've got a story of a Flamborough resident walking home that claims he was from the public house. So we've got to say he's had a drink. But as he's walking between the village and North Landing, he believes he's shadowed by a dog on all fours. Huge dog, but he can only see its shadow. Can't see it. Can't see no dog. He can see a shadow. And he says it paralleled him. He didn't feel no fear. So I know we've been talking about fear-related things for the most part with these sightings, but let's tell it how it is. This guy did not feel no fear. He believed it was there to guide him home, and to safely. And I think somebody said earlier that do we think that these hounds, these phantom hounds, are guardians of the dead? Well, it is strange that they're seen around burial mounds and they're seen in ancient places. That we spoke about these forests in North Yorkshire, and very close to where these things are seen, we've got Warsman's Head, which is a cairn field, a burial ground. And if we look at it says Wars, W-A-R-S. So this is me playing with words, but if we took the S off and put a G on it, it would be Wargman's Head. Why am I saying that? Because Norse, Viking terminology, the warg was a wolf. It's not something from Tolkien. That's what the Vikings called these things, wargs. So it'd be Wolfman's Head. You've got loads and loads of connotations and references to the wolf. And as I've said many times, we've got to understand that they were prevalent. Eastern North Yorkshire, wild country. It still is in many parts, but it is uncanny. But just before I finish there, Les, then we've got East Ayton, and we've got the Howard Brearley writing over 120 years ago about the Barguest of East Ayton, a huge phantom hound that stalked the forests and moors of Eastern North Yorkshire. Where's East Ayton? very close to Hackness, very close to Broxer. And when I say very close, we're talking a couple of miles. We're not talking 25 miles. It's all there. All the ingredients are there, and we're just picking up the baton and running with it. Sorry, let's go on. You want to say something?
Yeah, no, and this is kind of following on from the film about Wharnecliffe Woods from Andy Pollard. Welcome to the show, Andy. Good evening, lads. Going back to Wharnecliffe Woods, pretty worrying that a bipedal creature at around 9 to 10 foot tall is roaming around the Peak District, as I have camps on my own up there in that area.
Great question. And do you know something? There's so many people that will have camped in the areas that we've researched as well and never seen a thing. You know, do you know what I'm saying? Briefly, because we've got about 5 minutes left. We jumped to Loch Ness. We've got a salmon fisherman at Loch Ness who'd worked the loch for 45 years and didn't believe in Loch Ness. And then we get a report. He's looking down onto the loch and sees it. Well, he claims he did. You know, do you know what I guess what I'm saying is some people could probably go a lifetime and never experience anything. And, you know, it's the wrong place at the right time.
Lee Roscoe is asking a good question. Paul, why the jet fighters, when they chase the UFOs, how come they never seem to catch them?
Well, you're asking me a question Lee, I can't really answer, but because but I guess it speaks for itself in a way. The diver and the fisherman heard the lightnings scream over the cliff tops and saw them going into the distance. Peter says this thing dropped from the sky, just literally bump, bang, gone. He said it literally 2 seconds it were out of sight. That's 6 miles in his estimation, 2 seconds to drop from the sky and go. And he saw it pause momentarily. So, I mean, I guess that's part of the reason. These things just too fast for us to sort of, our technology to catch up with.
I've got 2 more questions, Paul, on my pad. Bobby Dazzler is asking, has Paul ever approached the Coast Guards based on Hornsey Front?
Yeah. And if you know some Coast Guards, please get in touch, because that's where there's a lot of information for me lies. And yes, I have spoken to Coast Guards from Hornsey. I'll not say the names. No, I've no need to. But I have, mostly in relation to a sighting, the Hummenbee incident, because one of the Coast Guards driving into work that day in 1998 witnessed military roadblocks and a triangle in a field, low over the fields. Was it military related, as in our technology? Could have been. I don't know. But yes, I have spoken to him. But if you can put me in touch, if you're saying that for some reason, please do. You know, my email address, Paul Sinclair, ilf@gmail.com.
Patricia Adams Wright has got the final question in tonight. And Paul, do you think the area could do with an intense scientific investigation?
Very much so, yeah. I would welcome it with open arms and contribute everything I could. And obviously bow down to superior knowledge of the people that wanted to get involved, because that's what it needs. Without a doubt, that's what it needs. It's all right having me placed in these locations and me gathering this information, but ultimately it needs some of this information needs to be put through rigorous scientific testing. And I don't mean over a couple of weeks. It's something that could take years. It's something that could be taking place long after I've gone. So yeah, that I do agree. Yeah, I think it could benefit from something like that.
And on that note, Paul, we are finished with this week's show.
Right, thank you.
I've got to thank you for your time, Paul, coming on.
No, thanks, Les. It's been good.
Hope everybody who's had this extra, because it wasn't planned, was it, Paul?
No, not at all, no.
I hope you've enjoyed listening to what we've had to say, and hope you took something away from the film that we showed middle of the session tonight. So, from me, it's good night, and wish you all a happy new year. And Paul?
Yeah, good night, and thank you for supporting us for the last year, and we'll see you in 2023. Thank you.
And thank you, Sky, for doing the moderating. Thanks everybody for coming on to tonight's stream.
Well, quickly then, before we go, sorry I'm butting in here, but Alison, Blue Shift, Tino, Sky,
give them a shout, yeah.
Yeah, all good, and I know we've missed names. I can only see a small bit here. Nick's Exploration, Stargazer Eternal, Breaking Clouds, MKMD, Aldo Rain. Les has said them all throughout the year. We really appreciate you, and thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. And Happy New Year to everyone out there. Good night.